Look, it's no contest. Between the Super Mario Bros. Movie that came out in 1993 and the new Super Mario Bros. Movie that just came out, easily the new one is better. It's just so much better in every way, shape, and form, and mainly because they actually stuck to the source material. But what if I told you they are more alike than you might think? That's right, we found quite a few similarities between the two movies. Of course, that doesn't change that the new one is better, but we thought it would be interesting to see what these two movies have in common, despite being dramatically different in quality. Let's get into it. Let's start with the first thing they obviously have in common. They both start out in Brooklyn. The Mario brothers have originally come from Brooklyn, New York. Of course, they were going to make this the same as the 1993 movie, which was one of the few things that they actually got right. But another thing these movies have in common is that the Mario brothers are not in a great place at the very beginning. In the 1993 film, these brothers were broke. They had rent that was 3 months overdue. Their jobs keep getting taken by this rival company called Scapelli Industries. Nothing is going right for these guys, even though they're really good plumbers. Luigi is kind of a plumber in training, but Mario is especially skilled in what he does, as shown later. And this isn't unlike the beginning of the new Super Mario Bros. Movie, where at the beginning they just started their plumbing business, so they're kind of a little bit high on life right now. They just got their first job. However, after completing said job, they get attacked by a dog and it just completely destroys the bathroom of the customers, which leaves them just completely down in the dumps. It's even worse when they get home and they're just not taken seriously for what they're doing. Even their former boss, Spike, at the beginning is just making fun of them because nobody has faith in them. They don't have faith in their business. They also invested their life savings into a commercial, so they're financially strapped as well. So in both movies, even though they're done in different ways, the Mario brothers are just down on their luck. And it also doesn't help that their van in both movies is just plain crappy. Yes, it works in Super Mario Bros., the live-action one, but it keeps failing on them. The engine's bad. Mario manages to fix it with a $3 bottle of tap water. It's just not a great van. But it's so bad in the new movie that they had to walk to their client. Like, that's how bad it was. The van wasn't even working. They just had to run through and do some Mario Brothers platforming on the streets of New York through some construction sites in order to get to their client. So in both movies, the Super Mario Bros. Van is a piece of crap. And Brooklyn's not in the best shape in both movies either, because there's just flooding in different parts of the city. So in the 1993 film, this isn't very obvious. It's a very easy thing to miss. But when Luigi's on the payphone looking for work, he hears somebody on the other end saying there's a big flood wherever they're at, and they need all the plumbers they can get, which might be a great job for the Mario brothers until Luigi's blinded by love and hangs up the phone and gives it to Daisy. So we didn't really see the flood that was on the phone, but there is actual flooding later on in the movie that we do see, where it's happening in the dig site underground, and the Scapelli's employees sabotage the dig site by messing with their plumbing. But let's get to the new Super Mario Bros. Movie, where there's just a big old flood in the streets of Brooklyn. It's shown on the news. Mario and Luigi see what's happening, and they get their tools, and they're ready to go save Brooklyn, or at least they think they're about to save Brooklyn. And you know, that also goes to show how skilled Mario is. He knew exactly where to look. He went down into the sewers to try and fix the machine that's been malfunctioning down there. So basically, the Mario brothers deal with floods of some kind in both movies. And you know what's interesting is that these jobs eventually lead them to the Mushroom Kingdom. That flood I mentioned in the 1993 film, where the entire dig site was being watered down by Scapelli's employees, that's where Mario gets his tools, and Luigi helps him as well. They go down into the tunnels and they fix the pipes easily, thus stopping the flood from getting any bigger. That is until they get knocked out by Koopa's cousins, Iggy and Spike, and then they kidnap Daisy, and after the Mario brothers come to, they go deeper into the tunnel, and then they find the portal to the Mushroom Kingdom. At least I think it was called the Mushroom Kingdom. What was it called? Dino Hatton or something? What a bizarre film. Now let's get back to the flooding that took place in the new Super Mario Bros. Film. As they try to fix the flood that's coming from underneath in the tunnels, the Mario brothers get swung into a wall. They break through that wall. They find a very complex labyrinth of pipes, which also has the pipe that leads to the Mushroom Kingdom. Luigi gets sucked in, and Mario soon follows. It makes sense that the portals to the Mushroom Kingdom are similar in both movies, because canonically that's how they got into the Mushroom Kingdom in the first place. Even back in the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, it was through a pipe, and you know there's a lot of pipes in the Mushroom Kingdom. Kingdom. It just makes sense that this was in the old movie and they kept it for the new one. And I also gotta bring up that both of these films are just filled with Mario Easter eggs. Of course, the new Mario movie filled with a ton more than the old one. The new one, as we all know, is just piled to the brim with Easter eggs. We have 2 videos on the matter. You should definitely check them out when this is over if you want to see just how many Easter eggs there are. But the Super Mario Bros. Film from 1993 has a couple as well, some of which are relevant to the plot, others not so much. Big Bertha, for example, is a character which is based on one of the alternate names for the big Cheep enemies. There's also a Bob-Omb in there that actually serves a great purpose narratively, which we will get to in a minute. There's some fungus, of course, because, you know, mushrooms, Mushroom Kingdom, I guess that counts as an Easter egg. Also, these boots that the Mario Bros use to jump really high, and they're powered by these cartridges that look like bullet bills. And I don't know if this was intentional or not, but the guns that the villains use that de-evolve things, the de-evolution guns, those look a lot like the super scopes that were on the Super NES. I don't think that was a coincidence. That had to have been intentional. So even though the 1993 Mario movie takes a ton of creative liberties to the point where it doesn't really look like a Mario film, there's still quite a few Easter eggs in there as well that help remind us what this strange movie is based on. And you know, when the Mario Bros get to the Mushroom Kingdom in the 1993 film, Luigi is kidnapped. And so is Mario. But you know, in the new 2023 film, Luigi is kidnapped there. He is a prisoner of war, you could probably call it. But this is not unlike the 1993 film where Mario and Luigi were taken into police custody because Koopa set out a warrant for a bunch of plumbers. Yeah, that 1993 film really wanted us to remember that these two were plumbers. But you know what's cool about the 1993 movie is that Mario and Luigi escape through a game of Mario Kart. I guess it's not literally a game of Mario Kart, it's more like just a car chase rather, but you could think of it as a Mario Kart game if you consider the items that they're using. They're using guns that shoot flamethrowers, which are kind of like a fire flower sort of deal, you know? If you really want, you can call this a Mario Kart segment, like the one in the new Super Mario Bros. Movie, where it's just straight up Mario Kart. They got everything from the way that the carts are made, it looks exactly like the menus from Mario Kart. They're using items like banana peels. There's even a freaking blue shell, dude. Man, that was such an epic moment. So both movies, they do kind of have Mario Kart sections, but it's clear that the new Super Mario Bros. Movie has the best one. Now let's talk about Bowser, or as he's known in the 1993 film, Koopa. And he looks like a human, because in that movie, dinosaurs evolved into humans in another dimension. Strange stuff all around. Koopa in this movie is an evil, lying son of a snake who's kind of a germaphobe, whereas in the 2023 film, he's the Bowser we know, ripped right out of the games. But he does have a really catchy song called Peaches that sings about how much he loves the princess, and you know, he wants to marry the princess. That's basically his goal in this movie, is to marry Princess Peach, which, you know, I guess it's kind of like what's happening in the Super Mario Bros. 1993 film. Okay, let me explain. I don't know if I'm just stretching with this, but there's this one scene in the 1993 film that's super creepy. He tells Princess Daisy that every girl remembers when they're kissed by a lizard, and like, I guess Bowser / Koopa holds some attraction to said princess in that movie. I don't know why they called her Daisy in the original film, but you know, I don't know why they made half the decisions they made in that film, so let's just move on to something else. Now, it didn't occur to me until later just how similar the climaxes in both movies are, right down to the fact that the Mushroom Kingdom merges with the real world. Now, it's not really explained that well, but in the 1993 film, the meteor that supposedly killed the dinosaurs gets put back together, and that somehow merges the dimensions to get really weird stuff. The buildings from the Mushroom Kingdom dimension merge into the real world, and the characters that were in that dimension also come into this world they're dissolved in. Koopa and his Goomba henchmen are there as well, and they turn Scapelli into a monkey. This is a very short section though. It's probably about maybe 30 seconds long. It's not very long at all, maybe a little longer than that. However, the climax of the new movie is completely set in Brooklyn. It takes way longer than 30 seconds to finally kick Bowser's butt, whereas in the live action film, they're warped quickly back to that other dimension to finish the fight. Other than those minor differences, it's a quite similar climax, if I do say so myself. Even if we talk about the fact that a Bob-Omb is used in the final act. Like in the 1993 film, there's a little Bob-Omb that the fungus tries to give the Mario brothers, and then Mario winds it up, and it eventually makes its way to Koopa, where he gets blasted into a platform and he de-evolves into a T-Rex. In my opinion, it was way funnier in the new Mario Bros. Film, where it's actually King Bob-Omb who accidentally gets lit, and then he just looks in the camera and says, "Oh no," or whatever, and then he just dies. He dies. Like, he explodes and stuff happens, things get knocked around everywhere, but let's be real, he is not coming back in the sequel. This dude is dead. He is completely dead. My goodness. This movie did get pretty dark at times, didn't it? And what happens at the end of both films is that Bowser/Koopa is defeated, and Brooklyn recognizes the Super Mario Bros. In some way. In the 1993 film, there's a news broadcast where the news anchor looks into the camera and says, "These Mario Bros. Saved Brooklyn, but I'd call them the Super Mario Brothers." You know, they had to bring up the title Super Mario Bros. In the movie somehow, and it's quite similar to the end of the new Super Mario Bros. Movie, where somebody, I forgot who, I think it was Spike, I really need to see that movie again, he says like, "3 cheers for the Super Mario Brothers," or something like that. So, you know, the Super Mario Bros. Themselves, they gotta get their fame, they gotta get their recognition, they gotta get their hips and hoorays out there, because they are the heroes of both films. But you know what else happens at the end of both movies? We get cliffhangers, baby. At the end of the new Super Mario Bros. Film, or at the very, very end, right after the credits, the camera goes back to the labyrinth of pipes, and there's a Yoshi egg left behind. It cracks, and the screen cuts to black to the sound. Yahoo! Very, very cool. We know who we're gonna expect in that sequel to the new Super Mario Bros. Film, but we're still waiting for that sequel to the 1993 Super Mario Bros. Film, because at the end, 3 weeks have passed since the battle with Koopa, and then Daisy barges into the Mario Bros. Apartment saying, "Mario and Luigi, you gotta help me, you're not gonna believe this," and she's got a gun there and everything, and Mario's like, "I believe it, I'll believe anything now after the stuff I just went through," and then the screen cuts to the title, and then that pop song plays that sounds very much like it came from 1993, and then nothing since, because this movie bombed both critically and commercially. So both movies have cliffhangers, only difference is one of these movies is gonna have a sequel. But those are the similarities between the 1993 live-action Super Mario Bros. Movie and the 2023 new Super Mario Bros. Movie. And even though these two movies have some things in common, they couldn't be more different. The 1993 live-action film, despite some Easter eggs, is extremely derivative from the games. It's just sloppily written with logistical flaws and flat characters, but the 2023 film has a ton of heart, a plot that mostly makes sense, but most importantly, it respects that source material. No question, this movie is better, even if it has a few similarities to the live-action film. Now we want to hear from you. Did you find any other similarities between the films? I watched these movies back to back, old then the new. Let me know if you found any other similarities in the comments below, and until next time, trust the fungus.